All right, hey guys. So another quick video on the Bulhoek Massacre. This will be part three, and this will be. But I wanted to talk about what you see before you. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people may have already heard about this, but if you haven't, well, I encourage you to research it. But I wanted to point this out because I found it very ironic that while in 1921, on May 24th in South Africa, the Israelites, black people were going through, massacre and being killed and murdered and stuff like that by the white South African government. And their cities, their homes, their communities that they established was torn down and demolished. And they were those who survived. They were left with nothing and pretty much just turned out, and had to go into Queenstown, like I said, the other city, neighboring city nearby. And they were just treated like complete rubbish, as the documentary stated. While that was going on in South Africa, I find it very funny that just 6 days after that, in the States here in America, the Tulsa, Oklahoma race riot broke out. And it was considered Black Wall Street because the black people that were first generation out after the slaves had been turned out and weren't no more considered chattel slavery or chattel slaves rather anymore. Within the first generation, they had built their own establishment, they had built their own communities, and they were making a lot of money and they were very successful. And of course, they were self sufficient. They were living set apart lives from the Gentiles. They were doing, I'm not going to say they were identifying as Israelites, even though we know they were more than likely Israelites. But anyway, they were going through the same thing that happened over there. Instead of them being killed and murdered, their communities, which was self sufficient, was destroyed and taken down as well. Just 6 days after that happened in South Africa. Now, if you watch the documentary, they stated that the government in South Africa, the white government, who had taken over and somehow gained control over us, which we know that if you read the scriptures, you know exactly how we became captives and so forth, serving our enemies. But anyway, they were, sorry about that, they were threatened at the fact that Black Israelites, Black people, were not living according to what the white government wanted them to be, which was poor and impoverished and controlled. Basically, they had established their own thing. And so they were threatened by that. They were scared by that. They were terrified and they did not want that to be an example for other Black people, Black Africans in this case, that were looking on. And it's the same exact thing that happened here in the States. The same exact thing. Now, the Black Wall Street wasn't torn down by the government. It was torn down by the KKK, the local white people who lived in the area. But in the same regard, over in South Africa, the white people that were in the area of in Tabalanga, they cheered and they were happy and they were applauded that the white government so-called took down the Israelites. And they were not happy of the Israelite community that was going on around them either, just as these white people here in the States weren't happy with Black Wall Street. And it was considered, of course, a threat, because a lot of white people, they were poor, they were illiterate, and here's these Black people, first generation out after slavery, and some of them were making money to the point where they were multimillionaires, even in today's economy, if they were to still be alive today. And so we had our own businesses, we had our own schools, churches, theaters, bus services, I'm sure salons, whatever you could think of, it was here in Black Wall Street. So of course this was once again considered a threat. And I'm pretty sure that they looked at this and said, we don't want Black people in America looking at this once again. So I find it very ironic that that same spirit, that same mentality that was down in South Africa was over here in America. And scripture says that we were sold unto our enemies. So again, I am not saying that you have to hate anybody, but I think it's very much important to know who you're dealing with and to not trust these people because they are the same spirit, whether you're in Africa or in America, whether they're in Africa or America, it's clearly the same spirit that's operating because this is spiritual. This is not flesh and blood. This is principalities in high places, spiritual wickedness. So I just want to point that out that, like I said, on May 24th, 1921, South Africa, the Israelites that built their own community and were self-sufficient, their establishment was torn down by the white government. Here in America, 6 days later, a Black community was torn down, not by the government, but by local white people who were also Blacks who were also self-sufficient. So, and also Israelites also of descendancy. So I just want to point that out. And I thought that was very interesting. So if you haven't heard of this, once again, go ahead on. I encourage you to look it it up. And if you have, you might find that interesting as just as much as I did, where, like it was 6 days apart and it was the exact same thing happening way in South Africa, happening over here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in America. So, anyway, I'm going to leave that with you all. And I think that is my last video. And I will see you all in the next video. Shalom, shalom.